institutional effects, shall I say, in this town of both the chamber and the hospital. There's a lot go on there that controls much of what happens in this city. You know,
And
the
I don't think
hospital,
that's healthy for our community at all.
no, you know, the hospital may almost be as insidious an organization as the chamber,
Yes.
if to the degree that you think either of them is a
But
problem.
they're gonna get what they want, yeah.
Right.
Well, I think it's unhealthy for the chamber to be involved in local politics like city government. Because what they've done is that they've bought these candidates, and then the whole chamber works to put out the yard signs and raise money and letters to the editor to help this chamber candidate get in. And I think a lot of people vote for the chamber candidate thinking, well, this is a business person and they'll run the city like a business, so this is a good thing. Well, they don't. What they do is they find special deals for the chamber executive board. And you have to understand, it isn't just the chamber, it's the Salem home builders and the realtors and the hospital and the statesmen that all work together.
That's my point.
And they get their candidates on these boards and commissions and also on council and mayor, and then things are done the way that big business wants it done, not the way the citizens want it done.
So let me ask you, did you read our Salem Weekly story on the Ashland Chamber of Commerce that was in the previous, and about they purposely stay out of politics?
Most chambers do. Most chambers are there to support the business.
The
business community.
Portland Chamber and Portland City Club are very closely aligned, you know, and of course my main involvement in the last few years has been through the City Club. And we have an antagonist, I mean, we're trying to break that down.
Our chamber tries to control the politics of our city.
Well, totally.
I mean, it is not good for our community. If you as a citizen want something, you may as well not even bother to go down to City Hall, because the chamber's gonna get what they want.
So let me ask you a really important question on that. So we all agree that we have a partisan political Chamber of Commerce in Salem that plays a large role in politics, election. You even said a little earlier that they control the city council, or
Well, they do.
they bought the city council.
Yeah.
Chuck Bennett says, because he's maybe, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that he would do a good job in working with them because he knows them and they've endorsed him, for instance. How would you as mayor, given that's the fact in Salem, that they're a political organization and that they run, you know, a lot of power, and we've previously said that the Chariots bus thing went down because of their raising funds and pushing on that. So what would you do to reach out to them or to better that situation in Salem?
Interestingly enough, when I showed up at the chamber forum, because I was undecided about whether to even attend that.
I bet you were.
And because two of the chamber executive board members had written negative letters about me. One of them, I didn't even know. I didn't know this person really. And they claimed all kinds of things they knew about me. Well, that was shocking that the chamber would do that so that they could shield their candidate, Chuck Bennett, from him having to make any kind of negative comments.
Now, of course, Chuck was endorsed by them, I guess, back in January before we had any other candidates. Not that they would have endorsed you.
Well, they claimed, I asked them that when they called and said, well, you know, you filed too late to be part of our endorsement process, but would you like to fill out our questionnaire? So I said yes, just so I could get the questionnaire and see what their issues were. But they told me no, they had not endorsed Chuck at that point, even though Chuck was going out in the community saying he was going to get the chamber endorsement.
Have they endorsed him or not?
Yes, they have, just in the last
and
2
they
weeks.
said they hadn't?
That's correct.
That's
what they told me.
Them that was lying, not Chuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So you have this
Well, anyway,
going on.
when I went to the forum, the woman who met me, I said, you know, I think the chamber ought to stay out of politics, personally, because I'm not happy with what the chamber's doing. And she said, well, oddly enough, that is a conversation we have all the time. So I think people need to
I think there's
talk to their chamber friends and get them out of politics. It's not healthy for us, the community.
I don't want to inject too much into this, except feeling very strongly about this myself. I see the chamber, and I want you to comment on this at the end. I see the chamber being having two agendas, one of which is legitimate and one is not. One agenda that they ought to have is protecting their existing business members.
Yes.
Many, if not most, well, most certainly, of whom are small business.
Yes.
Okay? The second agenda that they seem to adopt is almost a globalization agenda. It's almost a SEDCOR type agenda where let's attract new businesses to town. The chamber does not seem to acknowledge, and I don't think we in the community have called them on it enough, that the second agenda can really conflict the first. And the reason that I'd like to see you comment is that the symbol of that conflict is the chamber's attitude about downtown. Because downtown businesses are by and large going to be in that first category. We're an existing business. We would like the chamber to help us thrive. You know, of course, the data as an economist show 60 to 75% of your new jobs in any town come from the expansion of existing businesses, not from the attraction of new ones.
Right.
Especially when the attraction of new ones process in the last decade or two or three has become a globalization kind of issue. When you get a new, branch plan of a global corporation, whatever, to locate in your town, the most jobs they'll ever have is generally the day they open, and then they go into cutback mode, and it's a real crisis for the community downstream somewhere.
Right.
Now,
They use up the tax benefits and they move out.
Right. Well, and I've studied this process as a regional economist, and I'm convinced that we should almost repel those kinds of businesses from our community,
I look at it,
let alone go out and actively try to get them, which is a dead-end street.
Yeah, I think what we've been successful in attracting are minimum wage jobs.
Yeah.
Which just keeps our community down.
Which keeps us, my language is that we stay an economic colony. Right.
Well,
Anyway.
my opponent and other people in the chamber say, well, jobs, as if jobs are balloons that are just floating in the air and you can pull them down and plant them in your community.
Right.
I think if we work to really make our community better for us, make it more livable for us, the people that live here.
See,
We're gonna take
if
it
the
to a
chamber
level.
goes on that,
Yeah, they
that
don't
puts them in the role that they should be.
Yeah,
Doesn't it?
but, yeah, it does, but they
And
don't see that as their role.
That's my point. They see themselves
Yeah.
almost as an arm of SEDCOR.
Yeah, but it's worse than that, because they're there to get big tax breaks for their upper echelon members.
Yeah.
And I don't know that SEDCOR does that.
Well, SEDCOR's, my point is SEDCOR's job is to attract new business into town, they think. I have problems
Well, I
with that
think you
too.
attract new business into town by being the best community we can be. And if somebody, the manager of the Salem Center Mall talked to me one time, and he said, I just brought a big chain, big executive from a chain store that wants to look at locating in our mall. I brought him to Salem. I showed him the neighborhoods and they loved it. I showed them the hospital they loved it. I showed them the parks, they loved it. And we drove them through downtown and they said, what's wrong with your downtown? Because vacant stores and it was dirty and, no flower baskets were all dying and they didn't locate here because of how our downtown looked. Downtown should be a recruitment tool and a retention tool.
It's gotta be.
To retain the businesses we have here and help them become more healthy, and also bringing in businesses that have higher wage jobs. They go into good communities, not bad communities. And right now we're seen as a bad community, especially our downtown.
Interesting.
So let me go back to my question, which is, given the chamber plays the role that it does in our community, if you were elected as mayor, how would you
I
work
thought
with?
I missed that part of the question successfully.
Well, because Chuck Bennett
Yeah.
says that he would have an advantage to this because of his relationships with them, being endorsed by them. You as being an outsider, and how would you deal with?
I think the
their
Chamber
role?
of Commerce has a particular important role in the city of Salem in recruiting and retaining businesses and helping make the businesses that are here more healthy. I think that's a viable goal.
That should be their mission.
Yeah,
I
that should be their entire goal. I think they need to get out of politics to do that. But they could be a positive influence in our community if they begin to understand how the whole community needs to be raised up if they want to bring in bigger businesses and have healthier, retain businesses here and make them more healthy, the whole community has to come up. I think the median salary in Salem is like $38,000.
Oh, it's way below Eugene, Portland.
Yeah, well, that's because we are only able to attract minimum wage jobs, and we need to think more of ourselves. We need to have a better self-image of Salem. Portland radios or Portland TV stations during the legislature are always saying, those people down in Salem, and I think, that's not us. Those are those yahoos you all send here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not us. Stop defiling our community.